The longer this goes, the more I have to edit. So let's get this show.
Yeah. All right. Take off.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of Road Noise. As always, I'm glad you're hanging out with Dad and I always look forward to this chance just to sit down and connect with Dad. And I'm grateful that these stories are not only hitting my ears, but yours as well. So I'm looking forward to where we're headed to tonight, Dad.
All right. Let's go to Detroit.
All right.
We
I
haven't
love
been
Detroit.
over. Yeah, we haven't been over that way for a while. So let's go to Detroit. Back in the days when we're doing the puppets and had our bus and so forth. And so a church that we'd been at a couple, three times actually. Never did a series of meetings there, but they would always have us for special events and banquets or whatever they had going on. And so we got to know the area and got to know some of the people actually quite well. So that was a fun time. But like I said, this was back when we had the bus. And let me tell you a little bit about a bus like this. A bus like this, you only has one door, and that's up front, where you'd let passengers in and out of your bus. Not like a school bus that would have an emergency exit even at the back of the bus. Only one door. And this one door doesn't have a lock on it. And so anybody can get into the bus at any time, which I guess if you're picking up passengers all the time, that might be okay. But when you're living in a bus, that's not ideal. And so one of the first things that we did is put a lock on the door. And we used a lock just like you'd use on the front door of your house. You could lock it by flipping a lever on the inside, or you could lock it with a key from the outside. Oh, now, for those of you that are just curious as to how you get into the bus without this modification, there's a rod that sticks out the front of the bus. Most people don't have any clue what that rod's for, but all you have to do is push on that rod and the door opens. Okay, so for those of you looking to break into a Greyhound type bus, unless they've changed it, just push on that rod. You're in. Well, anyway, so here we are at this church, and the bus was locked. We had gone in, got everything set up and so forth. And in order to lock the door, you actually had to push on it. Or if you wanted to unlock the door, you had to kind of push on it because it had this real thick rubber gasket that went all the way around the door. And when you closed the door prior, it had the rod attached. It had a lever. And when you pulled that lever, that rod would pull that door really tight, squish that rubber, and keep the rain and so forth out. Well, we're not using that rod anymore because we've got a lock on it. So you've got to push against that rubber and collapse that rubber enough that the latch will, the key will actually open and unlock the door. Well, anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. Everything is set up. And one of our members went out to the bus, asked for the key. Okay, out the bus they go, and failed to push on the door in order to unlock it. They just put the key in and twisted, and it broke off right then and there. Just snapped that key flush. I mean, yeah, they had the one end of the key in their hand, but the other end of the key is not visible at all anymore. It's broke off in the lock. Well, they came back in and they were scared to death because now how are we supposed to get in the bus? I mean, without that door, like I said, there's not even an emergency door in the back. You're kind of locked out of your house at that point. Well, we went ahead and did the program, and things went well. And I kind of announced at the end, I says, if someone has any experience on how to get in a bus, I'd like to talk to you afterwards because we've got a situation where the keys broke off in our lock and we can't get in. Well, anyway, and went ahead and dismissed the program kind of like that. Lo and behold, there's a guy that came right up to the front. I mean, as soon as we're dismissed, he came right up to the front and said, I can help you out. And I'm like, wow, what do you mean? He says, I'm a locksmith. He says, I heard about your program is going to be here tonight and I wanted to see it. And so he says, basically, I came right from work. He says, I got my truck out in the parking lot. Now, what's the chances that a locksmith, first time at his church, shows up that particular night to see the puppet show and has a portable locksmith truck in the parking lot? Well, anyway, so I kind of left everybody else in the church to go ahead and start tearing down and so forth. And I went out to the bus with this guy, and he took a look at it. Oh yeah, that's no problem. And so while I'm standing there waiting, he ran over to his truck, came back with a kit, all of his special tools, and in a matter of seconds, he had the key out of the lock. And I mean, now we have both halves. Well, he took the part that he dug out, and he goes running back to his truck. Well, I thanked him when he got it out, but we still can't get in the bus. But he goes back to his truck, and it's probably, I doubt if it was 10 minutes. I'm going to say it might have been only 5 minutes later. He comes back and hands me 4 brand new keys.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I mean, I have never, prior or since, seen a locksmith truck in a church parking lot. I didn't know that there were people like this that could just make keys wherever they go. And this guy had 4 keys for us, brand new keys that all worked perfect. Oh, so when I asked, what do I owe you? He says, not a thing. I couldn't believe it. We showed up with basically 1 key. It got broken, and now we've got 4 keys. What are the chances of that?
Yeah, what are the
You know,
chances?
we've kind of started the podcast off many times about talking about God's provision for us over the years, and this is just another perfect example. God must have known that we were going to break a key off and somehow sent a message to this locksmith saying, I want you to be at this particular address tonight because I've got a job waiting for you to do. And
Yep.
he did it, and he did it well. That's the only time I ever saw that guy. He never got on our mailing list or anything else, so I have no idea who he is or anything. But if you're listening to the podcast, buddy, I just want to say thank you again. You really saved our hide that night.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah, the Lord knew that you would need a key and he would need a blessing through a puppet ministry. Like bring those two things together. And that's such a great story.
That's my God.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about keys, if you look back into the Old Testament in Isaiah, it talks about the key to the house of David. Now, I'm not real sure I know what that is, but I know who has it because it says the key to the house of David, um, he has, and he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. In other words, there's not going to be a locksmith that's going to be able to crack this locked door, or open the door, or lock the door, whichever the case may be. But that same exact wording shows up again in Revelation. The words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. Jesus holds the keys. Well, in this case, with our story, a guy in Detroit held the keys. But there are keys that our Savior is holding, and when he locks something, it's locked. If he opens it, it's open.
Yeah, what a great reminder. I just love this. And to be able to be, use these experiences in life and draw back into the word and see the teachings and carry forward like that. It's yeah, I love it.
We could talk about the keys of death and hell.
Yep.
Maybe those are part of the keys that we're talking about. Maybe they're all on the same keychain. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Maybe yeah,
Yeah,
part of the same keychain.
yeah. But do you know what kind of keys are sweet? This is an easy one. Come on.
I was gonna say like a key lime pie, but
Well, you're probably kind of close, but I was going to say cookies.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of key opens a banana?
Uh,
That would be
oh,
a monkey.
monkey. Yep.
Yeah. But I came across something that I wished I would have known that night in Detroit because we wouldn't have needed this guy. But I've heard that if you ever lock yourself out of your house, all you have to do is talk to the lock
Hmm.
because communication is the key.
Oh,
Does this thing
yeah.
have an emergency brake? Let's
Right.
stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I was talking to a friend a couple days ago, and he was commenting that he gets a chuckle out of the dad jokes at the end of these podcasts. I'm like, well, it's part of road noise at this point.
That may be the only reason some people listen.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll take it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Hey, and
Hit
if you
share.
right, right, hit share, and if you are catching this on Spotify or YouTube and made it this far, leave a key emoji in the comment. We'll know you made it to this far in the journey. All right. Well, hey, let's park it here and we'll pick it up again next week.